And welcome, Justin from Deconstruction Zone. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
Oh,
I'm always excited to get to network with people in the community,
yeah.
and so it's going to be a fantastic time getting to swap stories.
Yeah, this sounds good. Yeah, same. I mean, I love talking to people and hearing, the different stories because this is a different walk than, at least anything that I've grown up with. I didn't really hang out with any atheists. And actually, last night I was watching Young Sheldon. You're familiar with I don't, it's probably offline. It's just Netflix reruns. But, it's sad to say that I didn't watch The Big Bang Theory or Young Sheldon. Would you like to guess why? Yes, because Big Bang was wrong and evil. The actual Big Bang, so many nightmare stories
Because
I
it
have.
doesn't fit the young
Uh,
Earth creationist model,
it doesn't.
obviously.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So I am ashamed. It's a fucking awesome show. It was hilarious, and I'm watching Sheldon, and I'm like, he kind of reminds me of my son a little bit. So, and that gives me hope for him, but it's sad for me, and so now I have to go back and catch up on things. I did have a quick question for you to
Mhm.
start. I don't mean to throw you under the bus right off the bat, but um, what would you say is your best evidence for the existence of Sharon and Doug?
They're on the shelf behind me. You can see
Oh,
them with your own two eyes.
oh, I
Looks
see
like
him
you can
there.
see.
Yes. Oh,
You could reach out and touch them.
yeah, that it always it cracks me up, whenever you see a praise Doug, and I agree that Sharon doesn't get enough praise. We need to lift her up. I mean, she's just as important, as Doug is, as far as I'm concerned.
Every bit. She's the co-redemptrix.
All right. So I thought we'd get a little bit into, your backstory, maybe not spend too much time because I know you do have a extensive video. It's like, I think it's around 2 hours long, maybe, because all of these stories are long, usually. But the thing about that is it kind of goes in line with, we'll talk about your channel later, but goes in line. I mean, 2 hours kind of short for you. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing. I'm interested about your upbringing because I don't think I've ever heard you talk much about that. I mean, all that I know, I want to hear about this arrest, but we'll get to that in a second. But yes,
Actually, about that.
yeah. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
So I would say, I had a pretty standard Midwest upbringing, but I didn't come from a super religious family. So it's like I grew up in this area where there's nominal Christianity where a lot of people identify as Christian, but they don't really, a lot
Hmm.
of them don't go to church, or a lot of them do go to church out of habit. It's just kind of part of the culture, but it's not like being in the Bible Belt where it's really fundamental to
Yeah.
people's lives, and where people are really adamant about super hardline issues like young earth creationism, things like that. So I was lucky enough, and there was 8 of us, and eight kids in the family,
Holy crap.
and
And
believe it or
you
not,
weren't
all of
religious?
us, I know, right? All of us ended up going getting into different denominations as we grew up.
Yeah.
But my father wasn't really concerned as much about religion until I was a couple 5-6 years old. Then he really started to get involved in religion. He was Baptist.
Mm.
My mother was she would describe herself as a non-practicing Catholic. I think she for her sake, she had an admiration for the Catholic Church, not because she was so devotional to the religion, but because she had such a troubled upbringing. And she went to a Catholic school, and they recognized that she had a troubled upbringing,
Mm.
and they kind of took her under their wing and made sure she got what she needed, made sure she was taken care of. And so it was like a second parent for her, right?
Right.
So she always had a deep admiration for the Catholic school system and for the Catholic Church. And my dad wasn't uber religious when they met. And so we grew up going to Catholic church, or Catholic school, just because my mom's like, well, why not? It's a good education where we live. It's not expensive. And it kind of satisfied for her. She could go to the special events. She can go to Christmas and Easter and all the
Mhm.
school plays, and she
Yeah.
can get her holiday church going in, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's always a big deal, if you've ever
Right.
served in the ministry, which free labor, at church, then you know that the holidays are big, you gotta have the big 2, right?
Mhm.
Christmas and Easter, and, there's probably a graduation ceremony in there at some point for all the seniors or something like that. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
So, I was lucky in that aspect that I was never forced to believe in anything. I was never pressured to believe anything. My father, when I was young, about 6 or 7, he got really into his Baptist church, got really into like end times rapture theology. Because for him, it was kind of
Oh,
new. Like
yeah.
he kind of grew up in the faith, but he was like a
Mhm.
nominal believer as well. It wasn't until essentially what happened was my twin brother and I had a lot of health issues when we were born, and because we were premature, a lot of twins are premature, and because of it, my dad was pretty distraught, and
Mhm.
so like his way of dealing with the trauma of I might lose my 2 boys is turn to religion.
Mhm.
So that's how he dealt with it, and when it turned out that we survived, he kind of felt like, well, this must be God's doing, so now I have to, like, take it seriously.
Mhm.
Like, I prayed to God, the thing that I wanted to happen happened, and now I'm compelled to
Yeah.
to
Now
to
I'm in it.
be honest, right? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, now
Yeah.
I gotta do the thing. So he became really religious in my latter years of my childhood. But again, you know what? He never forced anyone to go to church. He never
Mhm.
pressured anyone to do anything they didn't want to do. So I was really lucky in that, I never, when it comes to religion, I never had anyone forcing anything down my throat, which means I got to listen to my dad. I got to listen to my mom. I got to listen to all the teachers in the Catholic school. And like I was just free to make my own decisions. And when I got a little bit older, I made friends around town. Some of them weren't Catholic. They
Mhm.
went to various churches. I attended. If I slept over, I went to church with them, and that was kind of my first exposure to what I might call like born again Christianity.
Yeah.
Because, like, when you grow up in the Catholic school, this nonsense that you need to be born again isn't really there. It's like either you're a believer or you're not.
Okay.
Like, do you believe? Did you get baptized? Are you taking the sacraments? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, there's not this nonsense of like, well, if you don't follow these exact steps and get baptized in the Holy Spirit, you're
Yeah.
not really saved. It's like the
Yeah.
Catholics like, no, 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 you can't go to hell on a technicality. That's silly, right? But
Yeah.
anyways, so I fell into because my best friend went to a charismatic church, and we were thick as thieves. Like if I wasn't staying at his house, he was staying at my house, but typically we're at his house.
Yeah.
Um, and so like every weekend I was going to church with him, and this from the time I was like 10 years old. And then when I was about 15, um, I was getting to a point where my mental development as a teenager was starting to think about future events, about who I am, who I want to be, what type of
Mhm.
a person I am, what type of world do I live in. I think in your teenage years, you wake up to that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of things you wake up to in your teenage years other than girls. Like I get people, you know.
Yeah. I mean, for a lot of people, yes. For me, I just wanted to play guitar and play music, which there is a correlation there with girls. Uh,
It
but so
certainly
so
is.
so you have a twin brother.
Mhm.
Did are does one of you have more body hair than the other? Because I mean that just going back to is it Jacob and Esau, right? So anyway, uh, I don't
Well,
know if
as
you
it
have to
turns
like pull
out,
any ruse where you have to like get the inheritance or anything, get the blessing. Anyway, so
well, neither one of us turned out to be super hairy, but But let's see. I mean, we nearly had a situation where I was coming out grasping at his heel. In
Oh, really?
fact,
Interesting.
so in the story of Jacob and Esau, one came out and then the other came out holding onto the heel of the other, and that
Mhm.
typically happens when the second baby is breached.
Okay.
So that was actually our situation. My twin brother was born first, and I started coming out head first. I was breached. And this is back when like there wasn't a lot of great methods for dealing with it. They had to
Right.
push me back in. I
Mm.
had to push me back in the womb, and then
Good.
they
Come back
they
later.
kind of
Yeah.
manipulate
Uh-huh.
the outside of the womb to turn you around inside of the womb, and then
Right.
they birth you again. So
Mhm.
technically, that day, my mother gave birth 3 times. Could you imagine?
No, I cannot. Having watched, 3 children being born, I don't know how any women are strong, man, and
Dude,
I don't know how they do it,
you
you
know
know?
what? I've said that before, and like the red pill men in the room will be like, "Oh God, you're glazed with women." I'm like, no, you don't understand. You have no idea how difficult birth is. Like
Mm-mm.
upwards of like 4 to 5% of women at certain points in history died giving birth. Like you
Right.
knew
Yeah,
if you're going to have children, there was a 4 to 5% chance that you will die from giving birth. That's crazy.
that is crazy. I mean, which, some of the stuff we're dealing with now is just getting older. And like my wife is perimenopause. I've talked a little bit about this on socials and stuff like that, just kind of like dealing with the crap. And I'm like, you would have been dead by now in the past. In the past.
Don't
We
say
wouldn't
that.
be, you know, I mean, that's the reason why I think that's my suspicion is why we don't have a lot of data. One, because women's health is a little neglected,
Mm.
but also, yeah, maybe they didn't live as long. I don't know. I'd have to look up the actual data on that, but I
Well,
suspect.
that seems to be the case. And in fact, that's one of the many reasons why, if you could afford it, um, having multiple wives was encouraged. In fact, it was even seen as a good thing, right? Because
Hmm.
the more wives you have, the more children you can have. We don't care so much about the welfare of the wives as much as
Yeah,
having children.
yeah. No, redundancy is important. You got to always have a backup.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
So you were pretty much brought up in Catholic Church and then converted at around 16 ish. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I actually still have the document from, like, the time it happened. And I'm sure you've heard of this before or something like it. Well, I was 15, and I had been toying with the idea of, like, maybe I do need born again. Like, maybe this is something serious that I need to do, right?
Hmm.
And so I remember I went to, with my best friend Kyle and his mom, we went to that classic play, Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames. Have you seen that one?
I don't think I've seen
It
that one.
it's
So,
rough.
okay.
So, it's a church drama,
Oh,
and basically, it's
see,
like
we didn't
this.
do that. I was raised Southern Baptist. We had Muppet ministry. Anyway.
Gotcha. So, this is popular in, like, the Assemblies of God and some
Okay.
of the charismatic, faiths, but they do this big play, this big drama where they act out particular scenes, and, like, one major scene would be, like, a car, with, like, 4 or 5 people in it, and then, like, the background of the people in the car will be various, like, one of them will be a Christian,
Now I
one of
think I
them won't be
have
a
seen this.
Christian,
Yes. Yeah, this sounds vaguely familiar now. Yeah.
and then, like, one of them would be like a child, and
Mhm.
then they all die, right? And then the whole
Right.
play is, like, acting out the afterlife, right?
Mhm.
Okay, well, the Christian goes to heaven. Here's your,
Yeah.
congratulations, walk through the gates, right?
Yeah.
And then the good person, the really kind, good person that just didn't believe in Jesus gets
Right.
drug away to hell, kicking and screaming to go into eternal torment.
What
And
a fool.
it's but so, like, for someone who is already on the fence of like, "Hey, I think maybe I do need to take this step," I think that's kind of a catalyst for like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, the consequences are high enough, I should not gamble and I should take the step," right? So,
Yeah.
for me, that was, like, the catalyst to push me over that edge, and to be fair, like, the church that I went to when I had my, born again experience, or when I, became a standard Christian of the non-Catholic variety, was a good church. I love the people
Mhm.
there. I still talk to him. The pastor was like a father to me. So, like, I have no bad experiences in the church.
Mhm.
I would say there's only one thing that happened. There's two things that happened in church that I think led to my development as a person today that are critical. And one of those things is I watched church abuse get covered up.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And because I've seen it happen, I know, and I've seen it happen at other churches, like, I
Mhm.
know it's happening a lot. Right. And
Yeah.
that's one of the, like, when I left Christianity, because I knew that these abuses were going on, I think it was one of the motivating factors for me to say, maybe let's take a second look,
Mhm.
maybe we should be talking about these issues. Um, I think the other thing that happened though was, and I love, uh, to the depths of my heart, I love the pastor that pastored this church. Um, but it was clear when I was by the time I was in college, it was pretty clear that his lack of specific education was holding the church back. And this became apparent because I started going to school. I was already in college when I was in high school. I did 2 years for engineering. Then I did 2 more years for robotics after that,
Okay.
after I graduated, and I started to recognize that there are certain ways of thinking, there are certain ways of doing research, there are certain ways of doing problem solving, and all
Mhm.
of these things you won't get through college if you haven't figured out how to do these things, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I started to look at the way he ran things, the way he approached the Bible, and I quickly determined that if I was going to go into ministry, and by that time I thought I was going to go into ministry, I was like, I will never go into ministry without having obtained some sort of an advanced degree,
Mhm.
because this is the most important thing you can do.
Yeah.
And it and at the same time as I'm pondering this, I'm on a walk with a good friend of mine, and I'm like, hey, when I've finished my education this year, I think I'm going to go to Bible college and seminary. But before those words could leave my mouth, as I was saying, about how I wanted to go into ministry, she's like,
Mhm.
"You're not going to be one of those uneducated pastors, are you?" And I was like, "If you'd let me finish my sentence."
Reading my mind. Yeah.
Right?
That's hilarious.
Uh, because, like, we both experienced the same thing, which is like, there's so many pastors that are pastoring churches that they don't have any credentials. It's clear that their education is
Oh,
holding
yes,
things
I know.
back. And I was like, so, like, for me as a young Christian, I was just so bent on, like, listen, if you're gonna do this thing, you have to educate yourself, right? And
Mhm.
of course, you know as well as everybody else, the beginning of biblical education is typically, opening the door to deconstruction.
Uh, yeah, I have my best friend from high school. She is, I mean, she's a minister, her husband's a minister, and after I deconverted, I'm like, "Here's where I'm at," and she's really progressive, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, like, seminaries, like, that's where you start deconstructing." And she's like, "You just can't," she's like, "You can't go to seminary without, deconstructing a little bit because you're gonna have some things challenge your beliefs." And I'm like, well, I've had it
Yeah.
more than challenged. It pretty much jettisoned it right out. So
So that it and I think seminary gets a bad rap because of this. But so, like, when I was in the seminary, people would say, "Oh, you're going to the cemetery," because it's where Christians go to die, right? Um, but to be fair to the seminary process, and I think seminaries do this better than Bible colleges, because I ended up doing both.
mhm.
Um, the goal of your introduction to seminary, like when you take your hermeneutics classes, right? what it's kind of like joining the military, right? When you go in, they want to be working somewhat with a clean slate. They don't want all the baggage, right?
Right.
So they kind of have to deprogram you, right? So
Mhm.
when you go into seminary, there's a little bit of deprogramming that happens where they're forcing you to question some of your widely held beliefs because first of all, it's not necessary to be the type of Christian that is like so hell bent on a particular doctrine that it prevents you from being a good pastor, right?
Mhm.
So a good seminary, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to try to break down some of your poor thinking, some of your bad methods for coming to conclusions, and then they're going to challenge a lot of your theological beliefs. And this is all happening year number one. Year
Yeah.
number one, they're breaking down the walls. Now, this is the difference between an academic seminary and like a non-academic seminary. If you go to a non-academic seminary, after they kind of deconstruct a little bit, they
Mhm.
try to reconstruct you in the way they want you to be.
Of course.
The type of seminary that I went to wasn't like that. I went to a seminary that is part of the Anabaptist tradition. The Anabaptist tradition, eh, eh, for the large part, before they broke off into the Mennonites and the Hutterites and all the other ites,
And the Canaanites and the
Amish.
anyway, sorry.
Um,
Yeah.
but the original Anabaptists, like the Brethren, but I went to a Brethren seminary.
Okay.
They firmly believed in the educational process. Like
Mhm.
you need to learn all the information and figure it out, and that's between you and God, right? And
Mhm.
so I went to a really good seminary where they did that deconstruction at the beginning, and then they're like, now here's all this stuff that you need to learn so that you can come to your own conclusions. Like you need
Yeah.
to learn the history and the Greek and the Hebrew. I'm not going to teach you one theological viewpoint. You need to learn all of these theological viewpoints. I'm not going to tell you which one is best. In fact, most of our teachers, like we didn't like if you looked at our teachers at this seminary, you wouldn't find that they all fell into a particular theological camp because they don't. They all are different theological camps
Right.
because the goal of the seminary isn't to get you to believe in a particular theology. It's to give you the tools to do your own theological work.
That kind of blows my mind though, because I'm if I'm going to believe something, I'm going to believe in the, like the one true way, so to speak, and then you're like, well, I mean, kind of, well, we think that God exists and Jesus, and resurrection, all this kind of stuff. But as far as like, well, which one is the one true path? You're going to have to figure it out yourself as you study and then, work it out between you and God. Right. So
Yeah.
that's pretty fascinating.
And there's a couple professors that I don't want to use the word famous, but they were like pretty classically known for I don't want to say being wishy-washy, but like they wouldn't give you sometimes the answers that you really wanted. Like you would ask for like on a particular topic, you're like, I need you to tell me your opinion on this particular topic.
Hmm.
And they're just like, listen, here are the ways you can think about this. I can't tell you what to believe. And sometimes students would get frustrated because they're like, I want you to tell me what to believe. And
Yeah.
the teacher's like, no, that's not the goal. The goal is not for me to tell you what to believe. And so I there were a number of people that I would say deconstructed and left traditional Christianity
Yeah.
in my seminary cohort, but not a lot.
Hmm.
I would say, I can count on one hand how many left. So most of them are still in the faith. So like I didn't go to like this super liberal seminary that like everyone deconverted afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, plenty of people deconstruct and then stay in the faith, just abandoning maybe some older ideas, which I find fascinating. I don't know many people like that have actually gone through and actually, I think I work with someone that is currently deconstructing. She attended IHOP KC. I don't know if you've heard about that, but yeah. So she's had to do a lot of rethinking, and I've asked her. I'm like, hey, you ready to come over to my team yet? She's like, no, I'm not gonna. I'm like, okay, it's fine, no big deal.
Yeah.
It's nice over here. No. Oh, I don't wanna let the arrest get away from us.
Oh,
So,
right.
tell
Yeah.
me the
I
story.
just I just got out. Actually, so, this does kinda tie in. So, I think one of the catalysts for me, of, like, going to church and so, quote, unquote, "dedicating my life to Christ," as they say,
Mhm.
you know, I can't say that I had a horrible home life, but I can say that I personally caused a lot of trouble that I shouldn't have caused. And, the one thing that I did struggle with, as a child was, being the last of 8 children and parents being divorced. Money was a real problem, and being the last of the children, like, the parents are kinda done. Like,
Mhm.
they had 6 of them that came before you. Like, you're just figuring this shit on your own. Like,
Yeah.
we're done now. You gotta raise yourself, right?
Yep.
So, I just didn't have money for stuff that I needed, quite
Mhm.
honestly. Like, there was winters where people bought me coats. There were times
Yeah.
people had to buy me, lunches at school, that type of a situation, right?
Right.
But my parents loved me. It's just we just didn't have any money.
Right.
So, but anyway, so I got into this situation when I was 16, like, right as I was getting, like, right the summer I turned 16, and I couldn't have been a month over 16.
Mhm.
And so I could drive now. I had a car that I got from the junkyard for $150. I got it when I
Nice.
was 15. My
Yeah.
sister's boyfriend helped me fix it so I can drive it. One of those situations. And my buddy Bob was over, and, like, so if you grow up how I grew up, it was, I don't think people do it anymore, but it was somewhat common for teenagers to we'll say remove things from stores that they didn't pay for.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
um
That's a that's a very PC way to put it, I guess.
yeah,
Oh, you mean stealing?
that's right. And I think the easiest thing that teenagers used to steal back in the day were tennis shoes.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyways, so I need some tennis shoes. I just turned 16, so I didn't have a job yet. I was looking for a job. I didn't have any money, and
Mhm.
I was with my buddy Bob. We were driving around, and we just drove by a Meyer store. It's like a department store.
Okay.
I was like, Bob, I'm gonna stop in at the store, and he's like, "What you need?" I was like, "Don't worry about it. Just wait in the car.
Just wait in the car.
Just wait in
I've
the car. I'll
seen
be
plenty of
back.
movies about this, yeah.
don't worry about me." So, like, so I go in and I swap my shoes out as you do, and put the box back on the shelf. And then, yeah, you go buy like a $5,
Yeah.
$2 candy bar or something, and you walk out with brand new shoes, right? Well, so, like, I took a little bit longer to get in and out than I thought I would, because I was looking for the restroom like an idiot. So you can swap in the restroom and there's no camera. Um, the problem that I had was, the restroom that was typically there was closed down, so I had to
Oh.
find, like, the alternative restroom, and
Uh-huh.
I was too dumb. I should have just left.
Mhm.
Anyways, so somebody, this is before they had cameras everywhere. Remember,
Mhm.
I'm old. And so somebody, who was in, like, security just noticed that I was weird. Like, I was
Yeah.
just really weird in the store. And
Mhm.
so as I was getting ready to leave, somebody approached me, and they're like, "Hey, we think you might have something that belongs to us." And, like, I could tell they weren't sure. Like, they were trying to,
Flesh it out of
right?
you a little bit, like, maybe he'll just, pipe up and say something, so
Right, yeah.
yeah.
I was like, "Ah, fuck, they could or could not have something on me." And
Yeah.
so I looked out the door. I was very close to the door. I looked out the door because 'cause I'm like, "I'm gonna see where my car is," because I
Make a
don't
run
know a
for it?
lot, but I know nobody in the store can beat me in a sprint, not a
Right,
single one of them.
right. Yeah.
I'm a 16-year-old boy. What are you gonna do?
And then you hope your friend left the car running at least, right?
Well, that was the problem because I took too long to get in and out, and, I looked out the door to see where the car was. As I looked out the door, I see Bob, my friend, walking through the door. He goes, "Justin, what's taking so long?" I was like,
Oh.
Motherfuck, Bobby, just drive the car home, goddammit, I'm gonna be here the rest of the day. Go, get out of here." Because if I ran to the car, he's stuck in the store now. I was like, "Well,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
whatever." I was like, Just go home, Bob. I'll call you later." And
Mhm.
so he drove my car home, and I had to stay behind and talk to the police. Anyways, I got lucky. I went to court. They gave me community service for the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I mean, it to be honest, the community service was good because
Mhm.
I worked the whole summer for free at the Humane Society, like
Oh, yeah.
basically shoveling poop out of the dog kennels.
Mhm.
And for the most part, like I didn't mind. I loved animals. Whatever, it is what it is. But like I do remember there was a point that summer, like towards the end of it, and I was just like, I'm thinking to myself as I'm shoveling these dog kennels out, and I'm just thinking like, I don't want to do this again. Like this is not who I want to be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that summer combined with what was already happening, like what I would say spiritually in my life, that
Uh-huh.
summer having to do community service, I was just like, this can't be the person I'm going to be in the future. And so that was a big catalyst for me to change because I was like, if I'm 25 and doing this, that's not that's not the
Mhm.
thing. So uh, that's how I got arrested.
Okay. It's pretty interesting that you had that thought at such a young age, and maybe Heaven's Gates, Hell Flames played a part in that. Thinking about like, well, I got to turn my life around. I got to do something
Right.
different. I'm in,
Exactly.
powerful place, right? So, okay. Well, I'm glad that I got to hear the story. That's awesome. We've got it preserved for all time, maybe. But
I don't think I've ever told anybody that
oh, really?
story.
Well, now we know. So, kids, stay in school and don't steal shit.
Do not. They got
Especially
cameras everywhere
right.
now.
Yeah. I mean, before you even get out of the car, you've been identified by several things and probably a flock camera by the cops and everything. So, yeah, don't do that. All right. So, you're in seminary. We're gonna fast forward. You're in
Right.
seminary. You're reading Ehrman. You're
Yeah,
thinking, and you're obsessed with the Old Testament, right?
that is the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to stumble on Bart Ehrman prior to Bible college. So I finished my engineering school work, and I had a really weird educational background. The way I had it structured, I had two-year degrees, which is not the same as a 4-year degree.
Hmm.
And but I had done it specifically because the second program that I was in had a direct transfer program to Cincinnati University, and it specifically had an engineering degree at Cincinnati for electromechanical engineering. It was a combined engineering program designed specifically for people who wanted to do robotics, and that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to do. I wanted to design robots. And so that was the thing. And I ended up not finishing at Cincinnati. I ended up not transferring because my dad got really sick with cancer, and my twin brother and I had to help take care of him towards the end. Like he kind of quit what he was doing. I kind of paused what I was doing. And then afterwards, we're like, okay, what do we do now?
Hmm.
And then I ended up in that time period of figuring out, okay, what do we do now? The economy collapsed. Remember 2007, 2008?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I uh
Uh,
I was lucky enough that I worked all through college because again, I didn't have any money. But
yeah.
so I was lucky enough. I already had a job in the robotics industry when I was finishing up my second degree.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I could transfer to Cincinnati and maybe find a job.
Yeah.
Or I could just find a job and then go to school at a local school nearby. And so that's
Yeah.
what I ended up doing. I ended up taking a really decent job over in South Bend, Indiana.
Okay.
And I went to Bethel University to finish out my bachelor's degree at a Bible college.
Hmm.
It was weird the way they have to combine it because when you have 4 years worth of credits, like how do you combine that into a bachelor's degree? Like
yeah.
you already have 4 years. What are you supposed to do for you? Right? I was like, well,
Right.
give me some classes.
No, no doubt. Just make it happen, people. I mean, that's the problem
Right.
with colleges. They're so weird about credits and stuff like that and transferring and uh, like I was raised in Kansas, but then I went to school in Missouri. And so fortunately there was a little thing where since my parents both worked in Missouri that they could give us a discount or like the difference between out of state tuition and in-state tuition. Why that even exists, I have no idea.
Hmm.
But and so it made it, you know, more affordable, I guess. So, but I don't know, colleges drive me crazy because of stuff like that, and stuff like
Right.
yours. You've got all this education. You're like, I'm just trying to get something.
I just need a
The,
paper.
yeah, I just need the paper, please. How much for the paper? Um,
Exactly.
okay. So, what?
So I
Yeah. So, go ahead.
on Bart Ehrman, so I fell into Bart Ehrman right before I went to Bible college,
Uh-huh.
because I knew I was going eventually. So I was like, well, I should start reading some of the critical stuff. Because, like,
Yeah.
I assumed, like, when I got there, they would make us read stuff that was critical to Christianity. Like, they're not just going to let's read all the fluffy stuff, right?
Right.
And so I
Hopefully not.
started reading some of the popular books countering the claims of Christianity from the scholarly perspective, and that's was really the start of my real deconstruction, where I was like, okay, we can't just accept things blindly. We have to take everything, like, one thing as it comes.
Hmm.
And because it became apparent at that time point that, like, there were some problems with the manuscripts. I was reading some textual criticism. I was reading some other stuff. I was like, okay, there's some problems with the manuscripts, and these problems probably account for why there's errors in the Bible.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Typos
so
or not typos, but you get what I'm saying.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like Bart Ehrman and a few others kind of prepped me for Bible college, because I didn't go into Bible college thinking the Bible is inerrant, which was
Mm,
so helpful for me, because so many people go into Bible college thinking the Bible is inerrant,
right.
it's infallible, and then what do? You get through year number 1 and you left school because you couldn't handle learning that the Bible wasn't inerrant, right?
Right. Well, I was raised Southern Baptist, so the Bible was whatever inerrant until you find out that it's not.
I know,
you
I
know.
still remember. This was nearing the end of my first year. I had a really good buddy. We were in Hebrew class together, and we both already took our Old Testament survey course. And so, but we had a friend that was just taking it. He's just starting it.
Hmm.
And I remember we had certain staff members that were, like, on deconstruction protocol. Like, if somebody starts falling away, call Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob needs to go. So we had a friend that didn't show up for class. And I talked to my other friend from Hebrew. I was like, hey, where's so and so? And we're like,
Uh-huh.
oh, he he learned that Jeremiah was being edited 300 years after Jeremiah died, and he left. He quit. I was like, oh, well, okay. That happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's very interesting, but I get it. I mean, I totally understand because I mean, ultimately that was the final nail for me. Whenever I figured out that not only was it not only was it inerrant, but there are actually older texts than the Hebrew
Right.
Bible, and then I'm like, what do you mean older text? What is this? What is this proof? And then you start digging into it, and like the Noah story was really what it did it for me. Like I never once thought about the scientific implications about a global flood. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, and something I even asked my wife about. I'm like, after it was over, I'm like, well, did you know, you ever wonder like how all of this came to be or about like the flood, and stuff. She's like, no, I guess I never really, it's just something, it's just part of is part of your existence. If you grew up, like, I mean, she's an army brat, so she's been all over, but there's roots in the military. Oh, I'm sorry, roots in the Midwest. And so, that's just kind of a common Midwest thing, well, yeah, God did it. Right.
Right.
You know,
It's true.
and you just
It
kind of
really is.
accept it as truth. And yeah, I got a lot of relearning to do, but oh well, that's not so bad. So you're doing that, you're deconstructing, and then your final, yeah, your final moment. You mentioned in your video that I'll link to in the show notes about just kind of waking up one morning and just realizing like, well, this shit isn't right. Yeah, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Yeah.
but just having that moment, which to me is almost the same as becoming a Christian. Like, you just, go down the Romans road and say the sinner's prayer and, and you're a believer, you're saved, once saved, always saved, maybe. But but then for me, like, the deconversion was very similar, where I did have kind of a moment coming back from the gas station, oddly enough. But yeah, so um yeah, what was it like for you, like, waking up and then having this realization? Was that traumatic? Was it more just enlightenment? I mean, how would you describe that moment?
I think so for me, at first, I wouldn't say that it was, like, traumatic. Um, so I had been deconstructing I think about the time I woke up, it would have been about 2013 or 14.
Mhm.
But I'd been deconstructing so long and slowly removing things out of my belief system that it was kinda like, you're taking one brick out of the wall and then another brick and then another brick and then another
Mhm.
brick, and then before you know it, you're like, "Oh, I could just, like, walk right through the wall. There's no bricks anymore."
Yeah.
And so you do that for as long as I did, and eventually you just kinda run out of bricks, and that's kinda what happened. Because like, so as a Christian, and I was such a I never do anything halfway. And so, like, I was such a devout Christian because I woke up in the morning, I prayed, I read the Bible, and I was like, okay, what can I do today for the kingdom? What can I do today to to honor God? These are thoughts that run through your mind, right?
Mhm.
And to be fair, like, if Christianity is true, these are probably thoughts that should run through your mind,
Mhm.
because it's not about you, right? So, but
Right.
I do remember those types of thoughts slowly starting to vanish. And I remember there was a day where just none of those thoughts were present anymore. I woke up and I was like, I'm not worried about a God giving a shit about what I do. I'm not worried
Yeah.
about a God giving a damn about, like, if I use curse words. And I was like, "Why? Why don't I care about this stuff anymore?" And it kind of dawned on me like, "Oh, 'cause I don't believe it's true anymore."
Yeah.
Like, it was like my consciousness needed to catch up with my subconsciousness. My subconscious
Yeah.
already figured out. My
Mhm.
subconscious was already like, "Yeah, you're done with this. You just don't know it yet."
Right.
And then eventually my active part of my brain was like, "Oh yeah, you're just not this is not the thing for you anymore."
Damn, I hadn't really thought about that before, about how, I mean, looking back at it now, I kind of see similar things, right? Where it's like, well, there was maybe little things here and there where I was like, it's kind of, God was kind of a dick for not allowing Moses to go into the promised land. I'm like, well, who does that? Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
he put up with them for 40 fucking years. I mean, I'm like, that's kind of, and then, or be like, man, he's kind of narcissistic, I mean, but you just kind of push it aside a little bit because you're like, well, I mean, it's true. I mean, what am I going to do about it? I mean, that's just God. He's kind of weird, but he loves us. But
Mhm.
that's an excellent observation that I hadn't really thought about, that the subconscious has figured it out before, your thinking brain, says, hey, you should listen to that guy,
Right.
that's amazing. So, well, I'm glad that you didn't have any moments of crisis, because, that's maybe it goes into how you were raised, that you had freedom to kind of explore and stuff like that, rather than feeling so, such a rigidity to, your faith.
Well, that too, plus, uh, I had started studying, like, near-death experiences and other God concepts along the way throughout
Hmm.
my process, and it didn't occur to me, like, when I realized Christianity wasn't true, like, it didn't occur to me that maybe no God is true. Like, my first thought was like, "Well, Christianity is not true, so what?"
Hmm.
I'm still gonna, like, die and my soul's gonna have some kind of a cool afterlife or something. Like, there's still a
Yeah.
God out there that, like, he's got some of this shit under control, maybe not all of it, I don't know.
Hmm.
So, like, for me, it wasn't catastrophic. I think it wasn't until a couple years later, because I did once I left Christianity, like, once I was okay admitting that I didn't believe the stuff anymore.
Hmm.
That's when I had to, like, explore. I'm like, okay, well, like, I don't know. if there's a God, what kind of a God? Maybe there's no God. I don't know.
Right.
Let's look into it, right? And over the course of thinking, and, like, really loving the Carl Sagan series, like, the idea of an afterlife just stopped making sense. I was like, where are we gonna go? There's nowhere,
Mhm.
like, there's no such thing as immaterial existence. Like, this whole none of this is sensible. Like,
Yeah.
as something existing outside of time for 0 seconds, this is stupid.
Mhm.
And so the more I thought about it, I'm just like, I don't see how souls make any sense. I don't see how immaterial existence makes any sense.
Mhm.
So, even though I had been studying NDEs for a long time, and listen, there are a lot of compelling NDE stories that would lead you to believe that there's some sort of immaterial soul that lives on. But if you read enough of the literature, it seems pretty clear that there's good scientific explanations for it, and people are probably just having some form of hallucinatory experience. But
Right.
the reality is, even if even if you're convinced by the NDEs, the science just says
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah.
And so, like, I got to a point where I was like, fuck, I'm not going to live forever. And that was hard. So leaving Christianity wasn't too hard. Coming to grips with the reality that I'm not going to live forever.
Mhm.
And, like, I'm now, like, I wish I had known this when I was 15, not when I was 30 something.
Yeah. There is something to the thought of immortality to where it changes how you view the world. I think,
Mhm.
well, I can take a shit anywhere I want to on, here because, fuck it, this place is ruined. This is trash. I lived with I lived with a Catholic, someone that went to Assembly of God, and then another guy who really didn't have another belief, but not deeply. And my catchphrase back then was, well, it's all going to burn in the end, and so that was the mentality though, right? Is just like, well, this place is temporary. And then for me, it was enlightening to find out that no, this is it, or come to that thought that like, this is it because I make the most of every day now. I mean, try to anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and that phrase, I think, helped me a lot to get through it. Because, when you first discover, especially if you're in your adult years, and you discover as an adult that you're not gonna live forever, it's really easy to slip into nihilism and have, like, all this existential dread and, like,
Hmm.
when I was a Christian, for example, I forget who it was, there's a basketball player that suffered from panic attacks, and I remember there was a time he had a panic attack, like, in the middle of a game,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
it wasn't because of the competition. He was an elite player. It was because something wasn't stable within him.
Right.
And I could not, as a Christian, understand why somebody would have a panic attack. It just didn't make any sense to me. But
Hmm.
the minute I stopped believing that I'm gonna live forever, I
Hmm.
started to experience, like, these existential panic attacks, like, "Holy
Interesting.
shit.
Hmm.
I'm not going to exist one day."
Yeah.
That's a huge fucking deal. Like, that's not a small thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it, right?
Right.
And so, like, and then it clicked. Then I got it. Yes, there's probably a lot of people experiencing mental health problems when they're leaving the faith because they don't know how to deal with, oh, I'm going to die one day. But I think what
Hmm.
you said helped me so much, which is that I don't know how long I'm going to live. I don't know for how many years. I don't know how many of those years will be good years, but I
Hmm.
know I have today. I'm going to
Yeah.
live the shit out of today and no one's going to stop me.
Yeah. Well, to quote one of my favorite comedians, Mark Maron, I don't know how much time I have left. So, because it's true, right? It's like, am I going to watch this movie? Am I going to read this book? And like, I don't know how much time I have left. So, let's see. I presume that you kept friends and family. Like there was sounds like you had a pretty good relationship. And just as you left faith that, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, did you have any kind of loss associated with that? I mean, does everybody still speak to you,
Yeah.
or do you still
So
still speak to people?
that was another area in which I was pretty lucky because I didn't really make friends with a lot of zealots. I was, even as
Hmm.
a Christian, I wasn't into to people that were like uber zealot.
Hmm.
I always liked people who were able to think critically and were able to look at both sides of the coin, and people who were capable of sharing a room with people who disagreed with them. And so, like, when I left, some people were like, "Yeah, that makes sense. We
Hmm.
get it.
Yeah.
He he was the guy studying the thing. He found things he didn't like, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's
And
good.
then some people, I think, were curious. You know, some people kind of came out and
Mhm.
started just asking me questions because it seemed like they had doubts themselves. The only person that I feel like initially had, a slightly negative reaction, which we're completely over now, was, my mother. She didn't see it coming. She's fine now.
Uh-huh.
Like, initially, it caught her off guard, but she wasn't mad at me. She just, it just surprised her.
Yeah.
And now she's actually on her own deconstruction journey as well. Like,
Oh.
and she's like, so she's in her 60s now, and
Mhm.
but like she she recognizes that, and she always had that there's always a possibility that a religion could be false, even though like so she believes in God. Like I don't think anything could deter her from believing in God.
Mhm.
But I think she's at a point where she recognizes that there's inherent problems in most religions. And so like even now she's started reading the Vedas in her 60s. A lot of people in her
The
60s aren't willing to
I'm
do
not
that.
familiar with that. The what?
The Vedas, the Hindu scriptures.
Oh, okay. I'm definitely not familiar with any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, so like I think for her, me leaving has been kind of a interesting catalyst of like, well, maybe I should see what else is out there. You know, I should
Mhm.
read what other people believe. I should know what they believe, right? Because maybe everybody has something to share in this topic, right? And so I feel like my mom reacted really well to it despite being caught off guard. And I didn't really get any backlash from my family. In fact, one of my family members who was like an atheist figured it out. And
Yeah. Probably like, something's up here." Yeah.
yeah, they figured it out.
Yeah.
And so like I was really lucky. Now that being said, you know, you and I have been in this community for a while.
Mhm.
And we've seen a lot of people lose family members over this, which
Yeah.
is really heartbreaking.
Mhm. So you go through this, you deconstruct, and then how much time passes between that and when you start your your online your social presence, if you will?
That's a good question. So I initially got online in 2023, so quite some time had passed.
Hmm.
I would say I was basically agnostic. Somewhere around 2015, 16.
Hmm.
By 2017, I was an atheist.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anyone yet. It was a painful process to get to the atheism point.
Hmm.
And so I didn't really want to talk about it. I didn't really know how to talk about it. And I didn't want to cause anybody else the same pain that I went through. As
Yeah.
far as I was concerned, I was like, I would prefer to believe it. Like I would prefer for it to be true,
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely. There's a
So,
lot of things that come along with that, right? Like you don't have to break up your routine, your social structure. I mean, I got free coffee and donuts or whatever every Sunday. It was
yeah.
great, and I played in the band, and
Mhm,
yeah, and then all of a sudden I don't really need to do that anymore, and didn't want to, frankly. So
mhm.
yeah, it's a big deal. So anyway, so you're working on that, and then you get to the channel. You're trying to help other people, maybe not
Yeah.
go so alone.
So that was initially it, kind of. So like initially I didn't want to make people lose their faith. That wasn't my goal.
Uh-huh.
Um, and like even in my original YouTube video from like 2023, I said that in my video.
Yes.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying to deconvert anybody, but like
Uh-huh.
the catalyst for me getting online is you probably remember when Rhett and Link did their big
Mhm.
deconstruction video
Yeah.
series and then the Ear Biscuits podcast. Um, but so at the time I remember like I was running a website even as like an agnostic and even as an atheist doing like biblical topics, right?
Mhm.
And I remember like really listening to their testimony and documenting the points that they talked about. And then I wrote an article about what they had to say and what other like why people were criticizing them. And like I just wanted to defend them because like they're actually raising really good points.
Mhm.
And like I think they're getting some really undeserved backlash. People are like really defaming their characters because they just came to a different conclusion.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the catalysts behind me saying, you know what? Like, I actually have credentials in this field of study. I don't have my PhD, but I've been doing this study for a long time. And
Mhm.
I do have two different degrees in the field. So I was like, maybe I'll start like a YouTube channel and start some dialogue. Maybe we can talk about some of these topics and we can do presentations and interviews and things like that and just kind of be like open the discussion of like, okay, there are real problems in the Bible and we need to talk about them.
Mhm.
And so I made like one or two, maybe three YouTube videos. And then I discovered TikTok. And I discovered TikTok because Christy Burke. Christy Burke was a big TikTok creator that moved over to YouTube. And I couldn't figure out how her YouTube channel was growing so fast. Like it just
Mhm.
took off by like lightning. And then finally I was like, oh, because she's got 150,000 followers on TikTok and they're all coming over to YouTube. I gotta get on TikTok, right? So I get
Right.
on TikTok and I start posting a couple videos, and it's not long before I realized TikTok is really interactive. Like you get to debate people, you can have panel discussions, and I was like, "Oh, this is really fun. Like, I really want to do this." And then I fell in the TikTok rabbit hole. For the whole next year, I didn't make a YouTube video. I didn't do shit. I was just on TikTok having panel discussions and posting short clips and videos, debating like really bad talking points. But the way I got into debate was I kept trying to engage in panel discussions. I kept trying to engage in like making videos, and the Christian backlash was so heavy and it was so
Mm.
like vitriolic. And every time I wanted to have a discussion, the Christians wanted to come up and like debate me and yell at me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I mean, listen, if you can't talk without having a debate, we'll do a debate, right? So
Right.
and then I just started doing debates and
I
it became
see.
all I did after that.
So it was them that wanted to debate you, not the other way around necessarily. You just wanted to have a conversation and
Yeah, because
yeah.
they couldn't handle getting tweaked. Like the minute they get tweaked, they get worked up a little bit, and then before you know it, you're like, it just automatically kind of turns into a debate.
Yeah. Well, I like where it is now, where it's just open, and I really feel I don't know if any real journalists exist anymore, but I really feel like there's a story there. I used to be a journalist, but I feel like there's a story about like social faith slash atheism, whatever religion discussion that's going on in these debate circles, which to me, I got man in high school. We didn't really have debate. I just we just didn't, but we did have a government class that we did have a topic where we did do some debate and we're supposed to pick a topic, and so I'm like, I don't know, how about marijuana should be legal. So I which is funny, I didn't even do it. It wasn't my thing at all, but I got stuff from like normal, and I researched, and I came in, I was doing so well, like I had won that debate until somebody said, well, what about other drugs? And I'm like, yeah, what about it? And then that's when I lost, because oh yeah, heroin should be illegal, and what and I'm like, oh, damn it.
Yep.
So then you learn a little bit about maybe how to debate. I'm interested in that from you. I've noticed some things. Okay, so I like to watch comedy, and they have bits, right? And they have callbacks. They have these, there's a structure that I've figured out over time, that it's not all just I get up and I talk and I make people laugh and then I go home. Like they actually think about it. I don't know if you've ever seen. It's one of Jerry Seinfeld's movies or documentaries, whenever he lays out like all of his notes. So he's written out all of this stuff. So it's well documented, all of his jokes and things of that nature. And so I notice when I watch you, it almost feels like a bit, but maybe you could explain that to me. And for anyone else who doesn't know, are we calling these arguments? Are we calling these, you feel like because you say things like, well, we haven't done this one in a while. So like to me, it sounds like a bit like, well, I haven't told that joke in a while, so let's do that. So how would you define um, that communication.
Yeah. So I think this is something on a lot of channels that happens organically. And so when I first started debating, it was just like, here's the topic, and we're not going to deviate from the topic. So I
Mhm,
initially started by doing kind of what Skits and Bits used to do. Skits and Bits was one of my big inspirations for doing the live stream debates. And he would do like, the Bible endorses slavery.
mhm.
And I thought that's a really good way to do the debate is just have a single topic and just debate it, right?
Yeah,
And that works well for a while, but when you do a single topic, what happens is you end up hearing the same talking point a lot. Like your audience, like, they'll know your talking points after
yeah,
a couple episodes, right?
sure.
So you end up having to switch up new topics, right? But
Mhm.
over the course of time, like even now, I do really broad open topics now so we can get as much debate as possible. Like I'll just say God isn't real or God is imaginary. And then we can talk about anything. We can talk about the Bible. We can talk about Islam. We can talk about slavery. Um,
Right. It's not God is it's your God. I've honed
exactly.
in on that. It's like, well, what God do you believe? Let's talk about that God, you know? Oh, well, I think that's a good strategy because it does, like you said, it doesn't pigeonhole you into certain arguments and and it really opens it up. You just never know what's going to come. It's usually, although sometimes they're pretty bad, like the links that, some religious practitioners are willing to go to. Like, yeah, it's fine to kill people if God says it's okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
exactly. And
it's
that was
wild.
actually one of the motivators behind me really starting to get serious about the debating people.
Hmm.
Was because I was having, I would say a light debate slash discussion on slavery, and there was a Christian that just doubled down on it, saying it was okay. There's nothing wrong with the transatlantic slave trade. It was fine. God said it's okay, so it must be okay. And that's when it hit me like, oh, there's a lot of people out here that are dangerous. Like they're just
Yeah,
like the religion makes them dangerous. And I was like,
yeah.
Maybe we should start deconverting these people." But as for the bits, I mean, so the bits kind of happen organically, and the way it
Okay.
typically works is as the theist brings up these common arguments, because they don't have many arguments. You've heard all 10 of them already. As they bring up the arguments, my audience has been watching me long enough. They know most of my responses, and so, like, before I even respond, I'll see people in the comments, like, giving the response they know is coming, right? And
Mhm.
then what do we do? We'll design an emoji. They can put an emoji in the
Yeah,
comments, right?
yeah.
I've got a really funny emoji because I'm not trying to brag, but I I kind of I don't want to use the word coined, but I popularized the Deuteronomy 22 bloody sheet debate topic.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
And one of the talking points from Christians that kept coming up was that, well, ancient Hebrew women had special hymens that always bled. And so
Wow.
the phrase Hebrew hymen started to come up a lot, and
Mhm.
before you knew it, we had an emoji. So now, be like the minute Deuteronomy 22 comes out in an argument, guess what? The chat is full of Hebrew hymen emojis.
See, I never have the chat open that much. I mean, a little bit. I'm usually watching it on the TV, and then I'm like, "Oh, I'll donate some money." By the way, thanks to you, so I read through the Bible whenever I was younger because that was a thing that mom and dad made us do, and that's fine. But then I wanted to know more, and you had mentioned one of the Bibles, so I got the Catholic Study Bible to read through, and I read through
Yeah.
with the only kid that's willing to sit through it with me. But yeah, we've talked about things uh, like that, and genocide and infanticide and all the other kinds of things. And it's pretty nasty. Um, okay. I'm about to wrap up here because I want to respect your time. I don't want to have you go on forever. Um, do you have a favorite argument out of
Mm.
all of the ones that you've brought up? Do you have one that you're just like, man, I just love when this one comes up?
So I think there was a time that Deuteronomy 22 was my favorite argument, which is why I think everybody in the community kinda knows it.
Mhm,
But I I I I re-found an argument that I hadn't used in a long time, maybe almost a year ago. And so when I was in, Bible college, I was teaching the junior high class at our church,
mhm,
and, I was reading through Second Samuel chapter 12 when God punishes David by having his son killed, right? And
mhm,
that's all they ever tell you about the story. You typically they try to cut off the rest of that, right? Now I knew it was there
mhm,
because I had to read the Bible, but, like, I had forgotten it was there. And I
mhm.
remember I was teaching through Second Samuel one day in Sunday school class with a bunch of, like, 12-year-olds, and I got to that part, and I was and, like, as the minute I was reading ahead, I forgot that it was there, and I remembered, I was like, "Okay, close the books, we gotta go
Yeah.
do another activity, and we can't talk about how God had the wives raped,"
Yeah,
and,
yeah, oh, I
so,
know.
like, I
It
re
was a bad one.
as I was debating the David topic, because I was debating David topic, and I remembered the baby. I was like, "Oh, we should talk about the baby." And then the minute I got there, I had like a flashback to that Sunday school classroom. I was like, "Oh, the fucking wives. Oh my God."
Yeah, the wives,
Yeah.
that's a rough one. I mean,
Yeah.
mm,
But that's my favorite, I think.
okay, that's cool. Um, okay, I do have this.
Mhm.
Thoughts on people who say that the Bible should be figurative versus literal. Personally, I fall in the camp that you're in, which is tell me what method you use to like figure that out. But was the Bible meant to be taken literally back then in ancient
I th
times, so to speak?
That's a really good question. And, I think this kind of falls into like, how do we read the prophecies as well? Because that's like the one topic I'm really known for. Like, I am known for making people read the horrors of the Old Testament, but
Right.
I'm really known for the prophecies. But like when we open up the prophecies and we read them, the first
Hmm.
thing a Christian wants to say is, "Well, that's not literally what needs to happen. It's a metaphor, or it's a double fulfillment, or like
Right.
there's a spiritual meaning to it, right?"
Hmm.
But like if you believe that is the case about any particular passage, prophetic or not, if you believe that it has some meaning other than what the context is telling you, then you need some kind of a tool for determining what it is. And that's where we talk about genre. So when you do your hermeneutics classes, you learn about genre, right? Would you go into a legal text like Ohio Revised Legal Code? Are you going to go into that text and find a prophecy? No, that's stupid. Like you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, there's
Yeah.
certain genres of text, like, when you're in that genre of text, you should expect that it matches the genre that you're in, right?
Hmm.
And so, like, if I'm reading, Leviticus 16, the scapegoat ritual, I have no reason to believe that the scapegoat ritual is a metaphor for anything. It's legal
Right.
instruction. There's
Yeah.
no metaphors in here.
Yeah.
And, now we do have clear metaphors in the Bible, and the Bible's, especially in the Psalms, there's full of metaphors, right?
Sure.
Like David in Psalm 2 being the begotten son of the Father. We know that God didn't birth David. We get that. That's a
Yeah.
metaphor. But like when we get to Genesis, that's where the water gets murky. And even scholars like John Walton in his Bible background series commentary says that Genesis operated like a science book for the ancient people. That's literally what he said.
Yeah.
And to be honest, a lot of them, for a lot of the ancient people, it did. Like
Yeah.
the book of Genesis was the scientific explanation for why things are the way things are. But
Hmm.
I know enough about the ancient Near East to know that even though these stories existed, not everyone believed them. There's a lot of people who didn't believe these stories are real.
Yeah.
So I think the intention of the book was to be real, to be literal. But I don't think that it was universally accepted as such, only because I think there was enough people that were out there saying, well, how the fuck do you know? You weren't there, you know?
Yeah. Well, but they did base their laws and society around this book, right? I mean, there
So,
were
So
That's yeah.
that's the difficulty, right? Because
Mhm.
it wasn't written all at once, right? So in the
Mhm.
earliest days, the people who first had Genesis are reading Genesis differently than the people reading Genesis when Jesus was alive, and
Yeah.
that's where it gets fuzzy because if you read the early church fathers, Origen, Tertullian, others, like they're going into the Old Testament, like the Mosaic Law, the Torah, and they're saying no, it's all allegory. It's all none
Yeah.
of it's real. It's all allegory. There's no literal Adam and Eve
Mhm.
because like they see the inherent problems and they're like, well, we can't have this text mean what it actually says. That's asinine, right? And
Mhm.
so, that was a hermeneutical approach that they were using that eventually I think normal people were like, "Well, that's stupid. We're not gonna do that."
Yeah.
And that hermeneutical approach was kind of left in history. It's not really popular anymore.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of questions about the Talmud, but not today. I mean, I'll just because the Safaria app that you mentioned,
That's a
website,
great
like
one.
that's really cool, and I've been reading through it, and then you look up like when those were written, and I'm like, okay, this is a whole other it's a whole other wing that I haven't explored before, and I'll just poke around on the
And it's tough
on the
too
side.
because in the Talmud, you're reading a dialogue between multiple rabbis half the
Mm-hmm.
time. And you have to remember some of the dialogue when you're reading a dialogue where it's quoting the Gemara, like this is an older portion of the dialogue because they weren't written in like a day. They're written
Mm-hmm.
over 10, 15, 20, 100, 200 years, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to know like what was written first and who's arguing with who sometimes.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but the reality of is that some of it, so there's obviously some oral tradition preserved in there
Yeah.
that predates Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, and
Jesus with the 5 disciples that were
yes,
so
exactly. Yeah, the
yeah,
Sanhedrin 43 lists the
right, yeah,
5
I was
executed
reading that.
disciples.
It's like, that's very interesting.
Isn't that funny?
It is. So, I mean, I'm like, "Hey, you guys fight it out. I don't care. I'm an atheist." So,
Right.
okay, last couple of things for you. Was Jesus a mason or a carpenter?
Oh goodness. Um, you know, I remember hearing this argument some time ago and thinking I should actually look into the textual witnesses and see like what the best answer is, and then I
Mhm,
didn't do it. So I actually don't know if he was a mason or a carpenter, but I do know that he was born in a cave, which means it would be like a really good illusion if he was a
mhm.
mason as
Yeah,
opposed to a carpenter. But then again, it would be a really good joke if he's a carpenter because what kind of a carpenter gets hung up on his own wooden nails? It's just
yeah,
the joke
but
writes themselves.
But then you got the stone with the grave. I mean, really, you can go either way with this. I mean,
True.
it's pretty flexible. But we all know the one true stone, which is Doug and Sharon. Uh,
A a Doug.
the last thing I would like to ask you, if someone, I think the most important thing about all of this, and to a greater extent, what's going on in the world, just in general, specifically the United States, is a lack of critical thinking. How do you get someone on the path to exploring thinking critically without getting too conspiratorial? If you have any ideas.
It is hard. Um Because, like, so you have to slow walk them. Sometimes you have to,
Mhm.
like, write it down on a notepad and put it on the screen so that they can keep track. You almost have to flow chart it. And,
Mhm.
like, I get it because, like, I remember, like, my first programming class. I had to learn logic before I was able to learn programming.
Mhm.
And I remember my very first programming class, like, at the end of, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks or something, we had a quiz, and the quiz was, like, you had to program, like, a four-way intersection with stoplights, and, make it so it all operated like it would in the real world. And, like, it sounds like an easy task, but
Mhm.
that's only if you really have a good grasp on logic and operations already, right? But I was
Right.
16 or 17, right? And so
Mhm.
as a young person, I'm like, okay, I have to like mentally start thinking order of operations. What comes first? What comes
Right.
next? And so I don't think a lot of people learned how to do this. I don't think a lot of people learned how to do logic, right? And like, but
Mhm.
like I was forced to learn it. Like when I was doing my electrical courses, the first thing you get introduced to is digital electronics, and then you have to do all your digital electronic logic gates, right? So like normal people don't have, they're not forced into this. And
Right.
so in order to get someone who hasn't been forced into thinking logically to think logically, I think you have to take them by the hand and like baby step them through every step of the process, or else they'll never grasp it because they're out there at like the 40,000 foot view.
Yeah,
They can't see the individual steps, but they need to see the individual steps.
definitely. Um, and these are the same people that probably argue with you that you're absolutely
Yeah.
wrong, and they go to church twice a year. Uh,
Yeah. The Illuminati captured my soul. I sold it to the devil.
yeah. So, to wrap this up, what's on the horizon for your future? Because you're doing this full time now, right? I mean, streaming and arguing or talking. I'm sorry, we're conversing, but
That's right.
yeah, you're doing this full time.
Yeah, so at the beginning of July, I went full time. I'd crunched the numbers, and I think I have enough advertising revenue and channel support to
Hmm.
be able to do this full time. And now that I have more time to put into the channel, I think I'll see positive reinforcement from it. Whereas before, I was working a full time job,
Yeah,
and then kind of doing this on the side and like
yeah.
just never sleeping. So now like I can actually do this like a normal job, and it actually works out really well for me.
Good.
Um, but it in the future, there's a couple things that I've got happening. I'm trying to finish my book. I'm a little over halfway through with it. It's a 2 volume series. The first volume is addressing all the messianic prophecies listed in the Gospels.
Oh, excellent. Because I was thinking that there needs to be a book to talk about this because
It's not a good one
if
yet there
I
yet.
see that fucking graph one more time
I
about
know.
like look at all the cross references, it's like those are the contradictions graph. Like it's
Yeah,
on a
right.
website anyway. Yeah, but I
So
mean,
yeah,
so many messianic prophecies that aren't you know well, I mean that Safaria thing. I mean going
mhm,
into the just Genesis 1:1 is different. I
right.
mean that's the same in the book of, or the Bible version that I got, but it's mind blowing to like that. It's different enough for you to say, oh, this actually says something different than everything I've known my entire life.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Because you're only told one perspective.
yeah.
Um, so I hopefully I'll have that out by the end of the year.
Okay.
I'm trying to get it finished and shop it around to a publisher.
Hmm.
I know if I send it to a publisher, I'm really not going to make any money on it. That's okay. I want to use this first book to kind of put my name into the arena so
Yeah.
that I can get more publishing deals in the future. And actually leverage, hey, I sold 100,000 books. Maybe this time I get a better percentage. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or if I have a successful first book, I can just self-publish. Who knows? But either way, the first book should be out. It should be published with a traditional publisher. And then, other than that, the only other thing that I'm doing differently this year is I'm doing more on my main channel, Deconstruction Zone. I'm going to be bringing on more scholars and doing topical dialogues with scholars
Hmm.
on my main channel. Obviously, on my debate channel, we're not doing it. It's only debates on the debate channel, but
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, I'm going to try to dialogue with more scholars on particular topics and do deep dives into particular topics. And I've got a couple more sessions I'm going to get planned up here with Rabbi Tovia. Rabbi Tovia and I both have like a deep love for the prophecies of the Hebrew Bible.
Hmm.
And so people give me a lot of flack because I'm partnering with somebody who's religious to do some of these videos. But like, okay, if my academic study was in the Hebrew Bible, and I spent a lot of it looking at the prophecies, and
Yeah.
I have a rabbi who is a friend of mine who knows the Hebrew prophecies very well. His native language is Hebrew.
Right.
why
Right.
why would we not join forces to have an intellectual discussion on these prophecies, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense to me. why not have a contemporary, expert or someone, very knowledgeable, rather than not, and not
Right.
taking advantage of that resource and a friendship. Is I mean, that's good.
And
So
my goal is not to convert everyone to atheism. I know that
mhm.
it could seem that way because I do so many debates, but like I want people to think critically and I want people to let go of dangerous ideologies. I don't want
Mhm.
people to believe that it's okay to enslave others. I don't want people to believe
Yeah,
that like it's okay to commit genocide because the Bible tells you so, right? Those are the things I don't want you to believe, right? But like,
right.
do I need people to be an atheist just because I am?
No.
No, of course not. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous.
No, just it would be nice if, they would stop being so aggressive, perhaps. That would be nice.
Right.
If you could just scale the fuck back, then we would shut up, you know?
Right. Well, I tell people, you ever notice how like no one's out here like debating against Hindus? Because traditionally Hinduism's not all that aggressive or dangerous. Like no one really cares what the Hindus are up to.
I need to get a Hindu deconstructionist on the show and, see how that goes because 'cause there'd
I know
be,
one.
Oh, yeah? Send them my way. That would be
All right.
fantastic. I would love it.
I'll send him.
So
I'll send him over.
but anyway, well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a wonderful discussion, and it's really, the topic of the show is about asking questions, about people who, ask questions, and that's what you do, and you prompt people to ask questions about themselves and about what they believe, and that's how I got there too. So, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it, and I'm certainly hope to hear from you again soon. I'm sure I will.
Oh yeah, absolutely.